Hi friends, welcome back. I'm here to continue reading chapter 3 of Socks. And if you remember yesterday, Charles William, the new baby, got a gift from his family, and it was a teddy bear. And Socks spotted the bear and kind of was having some thoughts that the bear looked like a lot of fun. So we're about to see what happens. All babies love soft bears, and I knew you had enough clothes by now, said Aunt Cassie, who was holding Charles William on her lap. Have you started him on egg yolk yet? Socks looked longingly at the bear, which Mrs. Bricker was holding on her lap, as if she needed something to take the place of Charles William. Say, Bill, said Uncle Walter to Mr. Bricker, have you thought about buying the kid an encyclopedia? Now's a good time. The price goes up the first of the year. Mr. Bricker tried to swallow a yawn. He had given Charles William his bottle at 2 o'clock that morning, and getting the air bubbles out of him had taken longer than usual. Mike was bored with the egg yolk discussion. He was bored with his father sitting there under his hat, trying to sell a set of encyclopedias. He stared thoughtfully at Socks, who was still watching the bear from under the chair. Then, looking innocently in another direction, Mike parted his lips and began to pant in short, quick pants like a dog. The pupils of Socks's golden green eyes grew large and black. A dog in the house? Where? The enemy cat returned with a threatening wail. The dog panted. Socks was terrified. He was surrounded by invisible enemies. Wild-eyed, he darted from under the chair to the center of the rug. Panting harder, the invisible dog seemed to be coming closer. Say, hasn't that cat put on a lot of weight? Asked Uncle Walter, who had been forced to admit that Charles William would not be ready to read for a few years, and by then the encyclopedia might be out of date. You know, said Aunt Cassie, who was letting Charles William clutch her finger, overweight animals are subject to heart trouble, the same as overweight people. Her voice then shifted to a higher note. Does the baby see the kitty? Look at the fat kitty. You're right, he's gaining weight, Mrs. Bricker said, as if she had not taken time to look at the cat lately. Charles William, turning his head in the direction of the cat fight sound, looked worried. Socks decided to risk and run to the safety of the bedroom. But Uncle Walter reached out and caught him as he tried to go by. Socks struggled. Uncle Walter would not let him go. Mike, I told you to stop that, said Aunt Cassie, and continued with her discussion of Socks's weight problems. That cat should be put on a diet before it's too late. Our poor old lassie is much healthier now that we have her on a salt-free, low-cholesterol diet. The dog gets chicken, we get hamburgers, said Uncle Walter, amusing himself by rumpling the cat's fur. I buy chicken breasts on sale and freeze them. Aunt Cassie had an answer for everything. Socks endured the rumpling the best he could, but the minute the big hand released him, he crouched close to the floor and glared in pure hatred at Uncle Walter. Then, looking anxiously from the right to the left and back again, he fled from the living room to his hideaway under the bed. There he remained among the dust fluffs, sneezing occasionally and trying to put his fur in order in a space so low that he could not sit up. Everything was wrong. He hated Uncle Walter and distrusted Mike. Aunt Cassie did not admire him. Worn out by the events of the afternoon, and with his fur in disarray, Socks fell asleep. Things were sure to be better at supper time. Even though Socks slept, his radar ears told him what was going on. The visitors departed. Charles William took his bottle. When the ears relayed the second burp to Socks's brain, he came out from under the bed and, trailing dust from his whiskers, ran down the hall to the kitchen in time to meet Mr. Bricker with the formula bottle. Sorry, Socks, said Mr. Bricker, unscrewing the cap. Cassie's right. You're too fat. Socks looked up and meowed to tell his master how hungry he was and how much in need of comfort after a terrible afternoon he was. Beat it. Mr. Bricker's words were rude, but his voice was stern. We can't have any fat cats around this house. We keep fit around here. Mrs. Bricker entered the kitchen to prepare supper. I'm going to watch my diet too, she said, as her husband dumped Socks's share of the warm milk down the drain. And I'm going to start exercising. I still can't zip up all my slacks. She raised her arms and bent to touch her toes. Socks, outraged. What was the matter with these people? He was supposed to have formula now. He always had formula after Charles William. These people could not treat him this way. He placed his front paws on Mr. Bricker's leg and meowed to let his feelings be known. Sorry. Mr. Bricker had made up his mind to start Socks on a program of physical fitness. 1, 2, 1, 2, Mrs. Bricker continued to touch her toes. Socks unsheathed his claws the least bit and let them prick Mr. Bricker's leg. Ouch! Cut that out! Mr. Bricker unhooked the claws and walked out of the kitchen, leaving Socks to sulk beside the refrigerator, while Mrs. Bricker, out of breath from her exercise, prepared the evening meal. All right, Socks, she finally said, after she had tripped over him twice and stepped on his tail. I'll feed you now and get out of your way. She laid 4 pieces of kidney instead of 8 in a dish in the laundry room. Socks gulped them down and looked up as if to say, Where's the rest of my meal? 4 pieces of meat would not get him out of the way when he was used to 8. Silly cat, said Mrs. Bricker with affection. You and I are going to lose weight. Socks sat down beside the refrigerator and gave his whiskers a quick swipe with his paw while he thought the problem over. When Charles William fussed in the back bedroom and Mrs. Bricker hurried off to attend to him, Socks saw his chance. He sprang to the counter, where he was disappointed to discover that the Brickers were having hot dogs for supper. Too hungry to be choosy, he sank his teeth into a link and thumped it to the floor. Socks! Shouted Mrs. Bricker, who heard the thump and knew its meaning. Socks ran in a guilty crouch, through the laundry room and down the hall to refuge underneath the bed. Mr. Bricker was after him with the broom. We can't let you get away with that, he said on his hands and knees as he lifted the bedspread and poked at the cat. Come on out of there. And you can see Mr. Bricker with the broom trying to get Socks from underneath the bed. Socks carried his prey to the furthest corner against the wall, where, growling faced Mr. Bricker. This was his hot dog, and he was willing to fight for it. Mr. Bricker pushed the broom at him, but Socks did not budge. He growled more fiercely, and his fur rose along his spine. Let his owner yell and poke. He was hungry, and he was going to have that hot dog. The broom jabbed again. Socks dropped his hot dog in the dust, and, with every hair standing on its end, he hissed. Mr. Bricker laughed. Okay, you win this time, but next time, look out. He rose to his knees and left Socks alone with his prey. Socks settled down to gnaw on the wiener as fiercely as he had stalked and killed it. If his owners did not care enough about to feed him properly, he would live by his wits. And that is the end of the chapter. So it's interesting to me how Socks chose to cause some trouble, because I thought where we had left off yesterday, I thought for sure he was going to get a hold of the bear and do something with the bear, but he ended up stealing a part of the Brickers' dinner. So I don't know. I feel bad for Socks, but he's getting himself into a lot of trouble. So we'll have to see what happens tomorrow as we start chapter 4. And chapter 4 is titled, The Evening the Sitter Came. Sounds like there's going to be a babysitter. Well, keep up those awesome drawings, friends. And I hope you're all doing well. I miss you guys. And I'll be back with you soon with more of the book. Bye.